他是艾尔登法环中最有魄力的角色，明明身为高贵的神人，但他却毅然斩断一切，只为追求心中的自由。他是无数玩家心中认定的二老婆，让兄弟们整日高呼，为拉尼变成了狼人模样。他也是游戏中唯一一个和玩家结婚，陪伴我们走向了结局的傲娇四手蓝皮怪。本期视频，阿北就以月之公主拉尼的第一视角来讲述这个关于反抗和自由的故事。
The stars guide fate, and the dark moon illuminates freedom. I was once a Empyrean, ordained by Golden Order, yet I came to see the fetters that men call grace beneath its halo. I have listened to the truth of the long night under the dark moon, and resolved to trade a path of solitude for freedom. I am Rani the Witch, the lunar princess of the Carrion royal family. My path ahead holds naught but solitude and the dark moon. My birth was the fruit of a war, a struggle between gold and the stars. My mother Renala was the full moon queen of the Carrion royal family, a gentle and powerful sorceress. My father Radagon was a hero of the golden lineage, a champion of order and discipline. Yet the war between them came to a sudden dramatic end. Once enemies, the two reconciled in the Church of Vows and were joined in union. Thus, the moon and gold knew a brief convergence, and I was product of this union. One half inheriting the order of gold, the other yearning for the freedom of the stars. In my youth, my mother Renala taught me sorcery and guided me to the moon that was mine alone, the dark moon. Unlike my mother's full moon, that dark moon was distant and profound, cold and mysterious. It was my power, and more, my fate. As if to say, I was destined to embrace freedom. But the shadow under the golden light soon fell upon me. It came as the envoys of the greater will, the vast and silent two fingers. They chose me as an Empyrean, a candidate to succeed Queen Marika the Eternal, to become the next vessel for the Golden Order. This should have been the highest honor, a chosen destiny. But to my eyes, it was a form of bondage. My life and the very meaning of my existence were casually dictated by an external will, as if I were but a tool, a vessel born for the sake of the Order. The two fingers bestowed upon me a shadow, a half-wolf beast named Bled to serve as my protector. To think of it now, it was naught but another form of surveillance. Yet in my youth, neither I nor Bledid himself perceived this truth. We grew up together in Carrier Manor, spending our childhood under the watch of War Councillor Egi. Blade's protection and companionship had long led me to see him as a trusted brother. Perhaps it was this contradictory bond that first granted me understanding of the Order's true meaning. It seeks to define all, to control all, permitting no will to stray from its path. Friendship and guardianship, they were but cold instruments to achieve an end, nothing more. Then one day, the Eternal Queen exiled the first Elden Lord Godfrey and all the warriors under his command, dispatching them to wage war beyond the lands between. It was then my father Radagon chose to depart, resolutely abandoning my mother Renala for the capital, to become Queen Marika's second husband and the new Elden Lord. Mother Renala was devastated by this. She spent her days clutching the amber egg her husband had gifted her, secluded within the grand library of the academy, seeking solace in the esoteric rite of rebirth. As for myself and my two brothers, Radan and Rykard, we gained the title of demigod by virtue of our father's new station. But I never saw the name of demigod as an honor, only as an imposed restraint. Once again, the greater will had coldly stolen my life away, without feeling and beyond question. After my mother sealed herself within the library, I often walked in the dead of night, savoring a fleeting freedom under the light of the dark moon. It was then I met the mentor who would change my life, the snowy crone, Rena. She was an aged and powerful sorceress, a master of cold sorceries. In the absence left by my mother's grief, the snowy crone Renna became my tutor. She taught me not only sorcery, but also to fear the dark moon, to fear that profound, unknown, and inviolable power. It was utterly unlike the Golden Order. Within the present order, the concept of death is no more. All departed souls return to the Erdtree to be born again. Without death, men would no longer fear, no longer stray. But without fear, how could one witness the nobility of courage? And without straying, how could one manifest the value of choice? The Golden Order, in the name of eternity, has stripped life of its most precious gift, death. I refuse such a grace. I wish to make the Order depart from this land, to return fear, doubt, and solitude to all living things, and along with that true freedom, deliver it into their own hands. In that moment, I found the meaning and value of my own existence. I would indeed succeed Queen Marika's order, but in my own way, and with the dark moon to supplant it. My plan was simple, to shatter the Golden Order by slaying a demigod who could not be slain, and in so doing, escape the grasp of the Two Fingers. To achieve this end, I needed to steal the rune of death, which Queen Marika had hidden away. And in this process, I unexpectedly gained the aid of two allies. One was the Black Knife Assassins of Nokron. They were a fellowship of women assassins. They are the Numen, kin to Queen Marika before her ascension to godhood. The other was one of my brothers, Rykard. He too had long grown discontent with the Golden Order and was preparing his blasphemy beneath the volcano. Whatever the aims of my allies, we ultimately stood together for a common purpose and succeeded in stealing a fragment of the Rune of Death from Marika's shadow beast, Malekith, the Black Blade. To cast off the control of the Two Fingers, I resolved to kill my own flesh, entrusting my spirit to a doll crafted in the likeness of my mentor. But the death of the flesh is not a complete death. I needed also to slay the soul of another demigod, to weave a death of two halves, a soulless demigod and a bodiless demigod. I chose as my mark the most perfect heir of the golden lineage, Godwyn the Golden. My decision was not born of hatred for Godwyn. Rather, to usher in a new order, I required a lord to walk with me. And so Godwyn, the one most likely to become this new lord, became a sacrifice I was forced to make. Thus began the plot known as the Night of the Black Knives. The Black Knife Assassins imbued their weapons with the power of the Rune of Death, and succeeded in slaying Godwyn's soul. And at that very same instant, atop a divine tower, I slew my own flesh and transferred my spirit into the doll. The chaos I had foreseen soon followed. The Elden Ring was suddenly shattered. The demigods claimed the shards, the great runes, and at Queen Marika's behest, fell to warring and plundering amongst themselves, each vying to become the new Elden Lord. And so the lands between were plunged into the calamitous war known as the Shattering. To think of it now, it all seems too great a coincidence. The aid of the Black Knife Assassins, the theft of destined death, the murder of Godwyn on the Night of the Black Knives, and the inexplicable shattering of the Elden Ring. It is as if, behind it all, a more secret actor was offering aid from the shadows. But no matter, the path to the stars and the dark moon was now open. All that remained was to slay the final obstacle upon that path, the Two Fingers bestowed upon me by the greater will. To achieve this end, I needed to find the underground eternal city of Nokron. It is said that a weapon that can slay a god, the Finger Slayer blade, lies hidden there. But due to the limitations of my dull body, I was to fall into a deep slumber. And so, I entrusted this task to my most loyal companions, Bled and Eg. As for myself, I fell into a deep sleep within the Three Sisters at Carrier Manor. When I woke again, the shattering war had long since ended, but the search for the Fingerslayer blade had reached an impasse. It was then that a variable appeared. He was a tarnished, guided by grace back to the lands between, with the spectral steed, Torrent, for a companion. Perhaps it was a small test, or a whim of the moment, but I used my teacher's name, Renna, to meet with him briefly at the Church of Ella. I gifted him the spirit, calling bell, and the ashes of Torrent's former master. I was keen to see how far this tarnished, who served the Two Fingers, would go. But this tarnished truly surprised me. He journeyed through Limgrave and Liurnia, defeated countless powerful foes along the way, and came to stand before me once more. Our reunion, perhaps it was fate that wove the thread. And so I showed him my true self. I am the witch Rani. I stole death long ago and search now for the dark path, that I might one day upend the whole of it and rid the world of all that came before. I had thought he would shrink from such a weighty vow, but even knowing the hardship of the path ahead, he chose to enter my service. Very well, let me see what this variable can accomplish. I bade him seek the Fingerslayer blade with Blade, and he did not disappoint. He soon learned that the path to Nokron was barred by my brother, Radan. But Radan did not seal my fate out of malice, rather to protect the lands between from the influence of the outer gods. He had arrested the stars with his gravity sorcery, and in so doing had frozen my destiny. I could not bring myself to raise a hand against my brother. However, Radan was now lost to madness due to the scarlet rot of Melania. His dear friend and commander, Jeren, was holding a festival of combat, hoping to allow Radan to die a warrior's death. And my tarnished, just as all had hoped, granted Radan an honorable death on the field of battle. With Radan's fall, the arrested stars returned to their course, and my path could continue. Soon after, the tarnished brought the god-slain Fingerslayer blade before me. Now, at last, I could end this manipulated life with my own hands. But such a journey was fraught with peril. I had to leave Blade and Eg behind and proceed alone. Even if the path I had chosen was one of renunciation, they were still a bond I could not bring myself to sever. And of course, there was the tarnished, who had accompanied me all this way. But when that stubborn silhouette of a tarnished followed me once more, it seemed a ripple stirred across the long frozen lake of my heart. I had thought myself long rid of such sentiment, yet in the face of this particular tarnished, I found that some things, deep in the soul, cannot be excised. I gave the tarnished one final task, to aid me in defeating the baleful shadow, an assassin sent by the Two Fingers. Along the way, I told the tarnished much of my past, my vision. Perhaps it was only when the end was in sight that the loneliness so long suppressed could finally find a voice, and it was the only time I so candidly revealed my weariness to another. The tarnished eventually defeated the baleful shadow. Suppressing the feeling in my heart, I thanked him and entrusted to him the key to the Carian royal legacy. Within my mother's library lies the Dark Moon Ring, a treasure bestowed upon a consort. I had once inscribed a warning upon the ring: whoever thou mayest be, take not the ring from this place. The solitude beyond the night is better mine alone. Like my heart, long since sealed, I never thought the day would come when it would be used. But watching the back of the tarnished who carved a path for me, I thought perhaps he could be a companion on my lonely road. Thereafter, beneath the moonlight altar, I ended the Two Fingers with my own hands and took back the fate that had for so long been controlled. as I sat sullied beneath that colossal corpse, thinking I had at last embraced eternal solitude. The Tarnished, holding that very dark moon ring, crossed the gloomy cathedral and came before me. He knelt and placed the ring upon the cold finger of my dull body. He did not seek to dispel my solitude, but chose to step within it, to walk the dark path alongside me. So it was thee who would become my lord. Perhaps I needn't have warned thee. I am pleased, however. Thou art a fitting choice. I bestowed upon him the Dark Moon Greatsword, the blade given by the Carian queens to their lords, as a token of our bond, and we agreed to journey together once more when he became lord. Finally, within the Erd Tree, the Tarnished defeated my father, Radagon, and the Elden Beast. He summoned me before my father's shattered form. It was all over. I cradled my father's head in my hands. A great, cold, dark moon manifested before me. In this moment, the lands between were free from the Order's intervention. All life and all souls would in the age of stars know what it is to fear, doubt, and loneliness, and know the freedom that ought never to have been disturbed. Let us go together, my dear consort eternal.